Hey there, folks. We got a special one for you today. We have David Crowell coming in the whole segment. We have the Ron Maver, and we're just spent a bunch of time talking about all the love that Hilton Head Island is getting. Deservedly so. This week, Market Monday. All right, Market Monday time. We have David here, so we figured with David here, we would have him for the whole episode.
That's cool.
The Ron Maver. The numbers for Hilton Head, same story, right? Inventory is down significantly from last year. This week, 33% from the same week last year. But the under contracts, 47 under contracts this week. So the story continues. Every week we have more property going under contract than we have property coming on the market. The oddity is price. We're showing the average price is down about 2% year to date this year versus year to date last year. I think it's so early in the season that there's just a few properties in there, and that's not a real number. If we look at Bluffton, it has a lot more activity, a lot more homes transacting. I think Bluffton's up, 18% or something like that? 28%? Yeah. I mean, my guess is Hilton Head is up 15% over where it was this time last year, I think.
For prices.
Average selling price, that's my guess. So I think you'll see this number normalize.
We see the market stable. Anything that you see with a 15% increase in pricing over a short period of time is more likely to be less than that.
Yep.
If you see over a short period of time a drop in pricing, it's more likely to be more than that. All indicators are that we're headed into a market stable position where buyers and sellers have equal incentive and distance.
So the market you're describing is one that has an absorption rate of 4 to 6 months, something like that, right?
That's the way it should be. The only thing that's a major aberration, and this is where national numbers really need to be thrown out the window because our region is so different.
Yeah.
You know, we have a built-in shortage of inventory, and that's going to persist.
So it's a lot less than the 4 to 6 months, which we would say is kind of a neutral market.
It's a classic neutral market. Yeah. And we don't think that Hilton Head is going to see a classic neutral market for 5 to 10 years. It's always going to be this imbalance between buyers and sellers.
Since maybe a week before Christmas, it seems that things have really picked up. Buyers are coming back. We're putting things under contract. We continue to struggle with low inventory. But when we look at prices, so we have to keep in mind that we're looking at something that was historic over the last year or two. And these numbers, to even stay close to the 2022 numbers, is really impressive. I use this reference all the time when I'm speaking with people. You know, we were witness to Michael Jordan's best year ever in the real estate market. Now, you can't tell me Michael Jordan's second best year is bad because it didn't compare to his best year. And we're seeing that with these numbers. It's virtually the same thing. We're still performing at a ridiculously high rate in terms of price point.
I think that that's a really, really, really good point. We can't run a business, nor can we measure our performance based on the best year of all time. Just as we can't fire everybody because we're having a bad year. I mean, you can't take your 20-year, 30-year employees and fire them because you're having a rough year. You have to dip into your pocket. The flip side of that is you can't run your business based on the best year of all time. Otherwise, you just make lots and lots of bad business.
For sure. Let's also remember that up until November of last year, politics were in play. And my experience is I don't care whether it's a midterm election or the presidential election. Once you start to get around the summertime of a voting year, there's uncertainty. And when there's uncertainty, people tap the brakes, right? They don't rule out a purchase. They just say, right now, I'm gonna wait and see, right? And after the election and things settle down, then we started to see website inquiries go up. We started to see website activity go up. All of those things that, 60 days, 30, 60 days later would lead to us telling them, hey, you gotta talk to David, he's the best guy around, right? Leads to mortgage applications, which then puts people in a position where when the right property comes along and they have all the financing in place, that they're good to go. And I feel like that's where we're sitting right now. We're kind of at the beginning of that phase.
You hit it on the nail when you said that decision-making cannot take place when there's uncertainty. We're not wired that way. We don't make major decisions, human beings, when there's chaos around us. And that is more and more media driven. It's
Yes.
more and more media driven because a midterm election is not a real exciting event. But we have this breaking news in your face mentality now that's greater than ever before. And interest rates, which are the most boring thing in the world, believe me, the most boring thing in the world. When interest rates become national news, you know you got trouble.
Yeah, man.
And so when CNN is chit-chatting, dummies on CNN who know nothing about interest rates are chatting about interest rates, you got trouble. So we had a perfect storm of reasons to tap the brakes. Those are gone.
I think a big change, when we talk about this, Dan, privately with terms of elections, you're faced with so much fear, and so much fear has been directed towards you that the day after a midterm election, you wake up and you look around and you're like, well, all right.
Sun came up.
Sun came up, like I'm gonna go to work.
That was kind of
And my Wednesday is gonna be the same as it was the Monday before election. And then all of a sudden you forget about that cycle and you start working your way in and you go online and you start looking at houses again.
Yeah.
And that goes to the back of your mind and you realize like, all right, life's gonna continue going on. It wasn't as bad as I thought.
The mantra that we preach, and I hear you guys preaching always, is follow your life. Your life, your priorities, your plan comes ahead of all of this stuff. So your job is to sweep stuff aside and focus on what's good for you. We'll figure out the technicals. Once you can clearly tell me what you and your family want to accomplish.
I think that's why, David, it has the greatest effect on discretionary purchases, right? If you're moving to Hilton Head Island because you have a new job here and the interest rates and stuff, they're not going to affect your decision making. An election is not going to change your mind. But if it's a second home that you've kind of always wanted but you don't really need, that gives you the opportunity to kind of tap the brakes and say, hey, let's see what happens. You remember back to the millennium, like everybody told us on January 1st, 2000, you weren't going to be able to get money, right? Like, remember and there was literally nothing happened, like nothing, right? It's the same every news event. It's the same BS story that they put upon us. And we believe it every time.
The big one that underlies it all in our market area here, for everybody who listens to this about Beaufort County, Bluffton, Hilton Head, is this supply-demand ratio, which underpins this market. We absolutely do not have the supply. We have more demand than we have supply. The good news about that for people who are nervous, because of this supply-demand ratio, you can go ahead and make the decision knowing that if it's the worst thing that you've ever done, if a year later you feel, oh my God, we never should have bought, you're going to be okay.
Yep.
This is not a market that is going to bite you.
Yeah. I met with a client that I sold her a property 12 years ago, and we met yesterday, and her life has changed. She's getting ready to sell it, move on, and she basically has just doubled her money.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And she had a place to come and stay.
Yeah.
Right, for 12 years. She spent the entire winter here for 12 years.
Yeah.
Right?
So all these side benefits, and then she walks away with a check.
Yeah, with twice as much as you put it. Yeah, pretty good deal.
If you want to touch on both of your points,
Yeah.
if you're looking in this market and you're worried about making that mistake, my advice would be come spend a week down here.
Yeah.
Go to restaurants, talk to people that live here, and just say, hey, you regret it? You would be hard-pressed to find one person that lives down here who's like, it's terrible. It's the worst thing ever. I mean, it's February, I'm walking around in short sleeves. This is horrible. Yeah. I can't wait to go back.
Right?
I mean,
the truth.
Just talk to the people that live there. Look around, the happiness, the outdoor activities around here, and that speaks volumes of why it's become such a high-demand area.
We spoke yesterday to a client who's been hanging around for about a year and a half, and he's missed 6 or 7 passes, and he's in the $1.2 million, $1.3 million price point, and he's frustrated and anxious, and that was the incoming call. And I said, widen your search. You want to be here. Rich man, poor man are the same in Hilton.
Yeah.
You're on the same kayaking club, the same running club. We're 75% of our time is spent out of doors. So widen your search. Find something for 450 or 500 or 600,000, get your toe in the water. And a year from now, as a resident, you will find a house.
For sure.
It's gonna happen.
For sure.
But you're putting all of this at a distance pressure on yourself.
For what?
And for no reason.
It's supposed to be fun.
It's supposed to be easy.
Right?
Get a little 2-bedroom condo and relax.
And like you said, like whatever you do in 3 years, the market's gonna make it great, right? Like
you're gonna look like a genius.
Yeah. I mean, the key of understanding our local market is getting out of the national mindset and understanding the supply-demand dynamics that are in place here. Not just the supply, meaning what's actively on the market, but the fact that there is a restricted overall supply if we just look at how many houses we have, right? How many properties there are, right? And it's been recognized just this week, the Wall Street Journal, Realtor.com, owned by Dow Jones and Company, came out with Mansion Global, and they said, these are the top 10 emerging markets. Last year, we were, I think, number 12 on the list. This year, we're number 1. Number 1 on the list of emerging markets for luxury properties. This has always been a luxury market, right? The definition of luxury means different things to a lot of people, but I would argue that 95% of the inventory in our area would be considered luxury inventory, right? And it's because of exactly what you said. You know, there is limited supply. The island isn't growing. The popularity of this place is forever.
One thing I think gets lost, and you really only understand it as somebody who comes from the Northeast, even right outside Manhattan, is broken up into small towns. Like the town that I came from was 1 square mile. And your kids go to school in that town, and then you know people from the next town over, but it's a different school system, It's a different thing. But one thing Hilton Head has that I don't think a lot of places has is, one, better weather, but it gives you that small town feel from someone that comes from the Northeast that you're used to. That small suburb of Boston, that small suburb of Manhattan, where I go to the grocery store now and I see people I know. It makes me feel like there's something about that. Like you go to a restaurant and you now know the owner, the same way that you grew up and you felt like that. And Hilton Head has that. I think that's something that can't be bought or manufactured. It's something that it either has it, as we talked about, or it doesn't.
And it's unusual down in the South to find that in my experience. Mailbag question, D. Paul asks, is someone looking to purchase a short-term rental property on Hilton Head Island while still living in Virginia? I wanted to know how the Newtown ordinance is panning out for the island. The ordinance seemed incredibly overbearing and difficult on property owners living out of state, and I'm curious if they're actually enforcing it.
Yeah, I don't think it's overbearing. I mean, I think it's something that has to be done. It's for a nominal fee. It's $250 for the year. It's asking that you provide parking for people as well as that you're there within an hour. Somebody is able to respond within an hour to make a repair or at least answer a question about a repair. And I think those are basic necessities. I think it's something that the island needs to ensure that we're still a destination that people want to come to, ensure the quality of a vacation. I mean, I can tell you a story. I took my son, he's a Packers fan. So I took him up to Green Bay for the last game of the season as his Christmas gift, and the Airbnb we stayed at had no hot water. And no hot water in Wisconsin in January is
makes you a Packers fan.
Yeah. You know, we were able to solve the problem. There was no hard feelings. They found me another Airbnb that they had also owned, but it was, if I had to wait 2, 3, 4 hours for a response, that's a huge difference.
Have you heard anything about it?
I absolutely agree. Heard a lot of chatter about it. I'm basically in favor of more rules, not less, because you can kill the golden goose. The thing that attracts so many short-term folks here is the golden goose, and you can kill the goose if you trash what attracted everybody in the first place. The original Sea Pines had it right. Noise ordinances, lighting ordinances, ambient light is kept to a minimum. All of these things were really, really important to preserve the environment.
It's why we've become so...
Why we were here.
Yeah. As somebody that owns a short-term vacation rental company, it has been a non-issue, right? There was concern, from our end too, that this was going to be an overstep, that it was going to be difficult to enforce, that it was going to be difficult for us to comply, and it was going to create a burden, a financial burden, a labor burden for us, all that stuff. It has been absolutely a non-event.
And I think there should be attention. I think there should be attention. I think that that full-time owners here should be in dynamic tension with short-term rental people.
That's what creates a balance, right?
That a balance is kept.
Sure. I mean, it's just like real estate markets, right? When one side has the advantage,
You're gonna
things get out of balance. Yeah. And the balance is what makes this place a special place, right?
100%.
Guys, thanks so much for coming in. We had a couple of other articles, but we forego those articles because the conversation was so good about the subject at hand. So,
Sometimes it happens.
thanks.
Good.
Thanks.
Good to see you guys. Good.